Family, I am very excited because today I am doing a special episode of Free Game all about the pathology of liars. Today, we are going to talk about lying ass mother suckers. And I'm excited to do this because, actually, there's a couple of reasons why I'm excited to do this. Number one, I'm excited to do this because as someone who is a compulsive truth teller, hey guys, I'm letting you guys fill in. As someone who's a compulsive truth teller, one of the things that I always warn my clients is the more you tell the truth, the higher the probability of someone calling you a liar. For those who just walked in and missed the intro, because I started out very quick today because I have a meeting in about an hour. Shout out to Jason Lee, because if Jason hadn't let me move my meeting, we wouldn't be on live today. So shout out to him. But I have a meeting in an hour, so I have to make this much more succinct than usual. But today's episode of Free Game, and for those who are new here, Free Game is where I come on maybe once a week to give you guys some free game on emotional intelligence and mental health and wellness and all that good stuff as a way to prepare you for my emotional intelligence workshop that's kicking off next month, actually about 3.5 weeks, the Own Thy Shift Self-Mastery Workshop. Someone in here just wrote, thank you, Jason. Yes, thank you, Jason, for giving me the free time. Someone says, I hate liars. I despise being lied to, and I hate pathological and habitual liars, but regular people lie too. And we're going to get into that. If there's a class that you ever needed to take notes on Free Game, because you guys know I always recommend that people take notes during these lives, because it's not just me chatting shit. They're actually academic. They're actually physically sound. A lot of times we have therapists and former clients of mine come in here and fellow practitioners come in here and say, she's telling the truth, y'all. She's not making this up. I think because of the way that I speak, it often feels like, oh, Blue's just a wise woman who's making shit up. No, this is all clinically sound. Everything I'm saying, I did not create emotional intelligence. I did not create psychology. This isn't just Blue's opinion. Okay? So, because we're about to learn some real free game, the kind of shit that people with bad insurance have to pay a lot of money for, I want to make sure that you're getting as many gems as possible. So, if you're new to me or you just jumped on, please grab a pen and pad. And while you guys are doing that, I'm going to put in the registration link for Own Thy Shift, so that anybody who watches this and feels like they're ready to join us next month feels free to do so. Hold on, let me do that right now. And I'm going to say it out loud because I might put an audio up of this. The link for Own Thy Shift is summer24.eventbrite.com. That is summer24.eventbrite.com. And shout out to all my day ones who have said, Blue, if you don't put the link up in the first 5 minutes, people might not hear it. All right, register. Oh, I love y'all. Oh, look at all the beautiful faces coming in. And I'm saying beautiful faces because a lot of you people that I know and have worked with. By the way, can we give a shout out to my loyal supporters? Because I was looking at my metrics and apparently about 40% of the people who take the Own Thy Shift workshop take it a second time. That is an astronomical number. The fact that 40% of y'all come back after taking it, and the numbers on people who recommend it to friends and family is even higher. So the fact that for every 2 people that come into my workshop, one of them comes back or brings a friend with them is such a huge compliment to me. That means more to me than even the money, because it lets me know that you're getting results that are good enough to be contagious and for you to want friends and family to have. To me, that's the ultimate compliment, is when someone comes back. Because let's be honest, on social media, everybody's doing a cash grab. Everybody's selling a workshop or an ebook or whatever, right? Anybody can do that, especially those who have really big followings of people who are just going to do whatever they want because they're popular. But to have people who sometimes don't even know who you are, but an uncle or a cousin recommended you, come into your course and find so much value that they either come back or tell a friend or a family member, that to me, I don't want to get emotional, but that makes me happier than anything in this world. All right, I bought you guys enough time. Today's free game session is going to be all about the pathology of lying. Because I have recognized, and I wrote notes on this because you guys know whenever I'm trying to make sure that I'm being concise and not getting into a tangent where we have a great conversation about one thing, but I leave 3 or 4 other things behind, I always write notes or bullet points to keep me on track, because I could talk to y'all all day. Y'all know I'm a podcaster. I could talk to y'all all day. But because we only have about 40 minutes, again, shout out to Jason, because we only have 40 minutes, I want to make sure that I hit all the key points so that if I do come back and do a part 2 of this, because I really could, I could do like a 2 or 3 part series on this, you guys at least have something to work with. Now, let's start with why I'm doing this. Why is Blue Telusma on this beautiful Monday in sunny California after she's been frolicking in South Beach with her friends all week. I know y'all saw my stories. I was living my best life, okay? I was having so much fun, I stopped posting. You know you're having fun when you can't even find an hour to edit a clip and post it, okay? So I'm going to post a clip from ABFF, more clips later this week. But before I continue with anything else, I want you guys to know that today's episode of Free Game was brought to me in a dream. I woke up this morning. I had a very prophetic dream. I'm not going to share too much detail. But I had a dream this morning and I felt a word on my heart, right? And what I'm about to say is to anybody watching this, who, you don't have to admit it to me, you don't even have to admit it in this live, who has a habit of lying. Now, lying is something that a lot of you in here do, but you don't want to admit that you're habitual and or pathological liars. And so I wrote this down. Blue, share with them that you had a word on your heart about habitual liars. What is a habitual liar? Let's get into it. And for those who are just coming in, we're doing a whole thing about liars, okay? So if you've been a liar, know a liar, or suspect you're being lied to, this is timely. A habitual liar that I'm thinking about in particular are people who have learned to be so consistent with their deceit that they low-key pride themselves on their ability to be clever. A habitual liar is someone who lies and they do it compulsively. So let's do the terms, right? Compulsive and habitual liar are interchangeable. Write that down, guys. A habitual liar is someone who lies compulsively. A compulsive liar is someone who lies habitually. They're the same thing. Now, what causes habitual lying? Because you're wondering, right? Like, only narcissists habitually lie? No. That's bullshit. Habitual lying and compulsive lying comes from anxiety. A perfect example of a compulsive lie is when you catch your man cheating. That's the most age-old example that we can think of, which is why I always use it. You catch a partner cheating. And because I date men right now, I'm going to say man. You catch your boo cheating and you ask him a question about something that is obvious. Let's say he's lying in the bed with the girl and you say to him, wait, did you fuck her? And despite the fact that it is obvious to you, God, and the landscaper who saw them sneak into the house that he is cheating on you, he gets anxious and scared and says, nah, it's not what it looks like. That is what compulsive and or habitual lying is. Habitual lying comes from a place of anxiety. A lot of compulsive liars, if you ask them why they lied, they don't even have a reason. It's just a habit, which is where the word habitual comes from. People who lie out of habit, I have a message for you. Somebody said, not the landscaper. Y'all know how my brain works. Just because you've been lying for a long time and people usually don't check you on lying doesn't mean they don't know you're lying. That was the message I woke up with this morning. I woke up thinking about several liars that I used to know, because I don't hang out with people who habitually lie. It's just not good because of what I do for a living. But I've thought about several people who I've caught lying over the last 6 to 8 months. And I felt it on my heart that I wanted to forgive them, right? Because I forgive for me, not for them. Because when you don't forgive somebody, that's you taking poison and expecting them to die. Now, be clear that forgiveness doesn't mean access. Just because I know how to forgive doesn't mean you've earned the ability to have access to me if you're still lying, right? So I was like, well, Blue, how do you forgive? And I was like, well, why are they like this? And I was thinking about it. I was like, they're like this because most people play stupid. So if you are someone who prides yourself on being clever, who thinks that you've woven these epic stories, these interchangeable narratives where you keep her over here and him over here and them over there, and because you have not been chin checked, you're assuming it's working. I need you to know that's not true. Just because no one or very few people have looked you in the face and said you're a fucking liar doesn't mean everybody doesn't know. In fact, one of the ironies of life is if you are someone who is powerful, attractive, charming, or just a fucking headache, most people will catch you lying and let it slide. And the problem with being someone who consistently and compulsively and habitually lies and who conflates not being called out with not being caught is that it emboldens you. And when a habitual or compulsive liar becomes emboldened because nobody has the inclination or even cares enough to call them out, because you have to care about someone to have a confrontational, compassionate conversation saying, friend, I love you. Why do you lie so much? That's a very courageous conversation. And for those who've heard about my class, we do a whole day where we teach nothing but how to have safe, courageous conversations, right? But most human beings don't even know courageous conversations exist, or don't have the bandwidth, or simply don't give a fuck about you enough to invest in your growth. And so when a habitual or compulsive liar, someone who is lying out of anxiety, doesn't get chin checked, guess what that creates? A pathological liar, which is a lot more dangerous. A pathological liar isn't someone who lies because they're anxious. It isn't someone who just lies because they're nervous. It's someone who lies as a lifestyle. It's someone who lies to uphold a false sense of self or persona. I'm going to repeat this again for those who are just coming in. We are talking about the pathology of liars, and we're talking about the two kinds of liars that you guys think are the same, but they are not. The more mundane, everyday, garden variety form of lying that, and mind you, we're talking about liars, not lying. Why am I saying that? My OGs who take my class know why I'm saying this. In the same way that there's a huge difference between having an angry moment and being an angry person, there's also a huge difference between lying and being a liar, right? We've all lied. We're not all liars. Lying is a moment. A liar is someone who lies so much, it is literally, arguably, something that is heavy enough on their spirit to be seen as a defining character trait. So have I lied? Yes. Everybody in this live has fucking lied. If you've ever told your boss that you were sick when you were really going on vacation or getting your hair done, you've lied. But not everybody on this live is a liar. So that distinction is very important. Have you lied? Yes, but are you a liar? This live is about different types of liars. People who lie so much, it is a defining character trait that has caused disease, disruption, and chaos in their lives. Most people who say stuff like, my life is in shambles, it's because you're a liar. It's because you're a liar. Your life is in shambles because you lie. I'm going to read some of these right now. It says, Blue, that's my father in a nutshell. His third wife, whom I love, told him that very thing 20 years ago. That man still hurt. She proceeded to serve him divorce papers. Until this day, I take my hat off. Yeah. So, guys, just because someone is lying doesn't make them a liar. But when someone lies to the point where you feel very comfortable between you and God calling them a liar, now we have to distinguish what kind of liar are they? Are they habitual/compulsive liar? Same thing. Those two words are interchangeable. Are they someone who lies out of anxiety, right? Like I knew someone. I don't know him anymore. But I knew someone who every time I caught him lying, he responded by lying even more. I also recognized that he had an anxiety disorder and he was doing it out of fear because he didn't have the language or the self-esteem to tell the truth, right? I knew that most times when I talked to him, he was probably going to tell me the truth. But if I caught him on some fuck shit, there was a 99% chance he was going to lie again. Because anxiety immediately made him lie. And I remember the first time I caught him lying, I didn't say anything. Actually, I didn't say anything 90% of the time when I caught him lying. Because again, guys, just because someone's not calling you out on lying doesn't mean they don't know, right? The first time I recognized that he had lied to me 3 times in 1 month, that I knew of, it could have been more. I was like, he always lies when he's scared. So if I ask him something that scares him, I need to prepare myself for the lie and then breathe, because you know that's insulting to be lied to, and figure out how to get to the truth. Because if I call him out and say you're a fucking liar, he's going to get more scared and lie even more. By the way, guys, what I just exhibited is the ways that I show liars grace that they don't even know. I can't tell you how many liars I've met who don't recognize that our first fight was the 100th time I caught them lying, not the first. And so they argue with me as if, oh my God, I've been getting over on her for 6 months. Why is she getting so angry the first time she caught me? I'm not getting angry the first time I caught you. I'm getting angry the first time that I was too tired to show you a grace that you didn't earn. There's a big fucking difference. And here's the thing. You knew you've been lying this entire time. So even without me telling you that I know you're lying, the fact that you know you're lying and are still acting like I'm crazy means you're lying to yourself as well. If I stole $1,000 from someone and I am someone with a clean heart who was having a bad moment, and that person said, I can't believe there's $500 missing from me. I can't believe you stole $500 from me. If I'm someone with any hope of being a decent person in that moment, I'm going to feel so bad about the $1,000. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. But if I'm someone who's been compulsively lying for so long that the fact that they only caught me stealing 500 means I'm only going to feel bad about 500. Because the other 5 that I know I stole, I've convinced myself doesn't exist because I wasn't caught yet. That is when you know you're a pathological liar. Pathological liars don't feel bad about what they did. They only feel bad about what they were caught doing. Does that make sense, guys? Pathological liars don't feel bad about the 100 things that you didn't call them out for. They only hyper focus on the one thing that you asked about. And like most toxic people will try to drown you in semantics about that one thing, even though they know about the 100 other bullshit things that they did to you that you're not calling out. That is pathological. That is no longer anxiety. That is malice. Someone says, love you, Blue. I've learned a lot from you. Oh, I love you too. Blue at a bar. That's not the first time. That's just the first time I was too tired to show you grace. Oh, you guys are talking about my bars. My bad, guys. I'm just trying to make sure I read the comments. So I need you guys to understand, for all the liars out there who are going to be watching this lurking, because a lot of you, from my metrics, I keep on saying this, the number of people who come to my page religiously and the number of people who actually like and engage are wildly different, which means a lot of you, and I'm being gracious here, a lot of you probably feel a way that you need this content. A lot of you probably are judging and feel shame around the fact that you need emotional intelligence coaching. There's no shame in that, right? Which is why when I speak, I don't just speak for the people who are doing their best and talking to me in the comments. I'm also speaking to people who are full of shit, but need someone like me to tell them things that their friends and family won't, right? So pathological liars, they lie as a lifestyle. Their entire lives are interwoven into a persona that they've created. Now, here is where things get tricky. Do you know what are the 2 most popular groups of pathological liars that I have personally encountered in my 21 in August, 20 years of doing this work? Can you guys guess in the comments, what do you think are the 2 types of people that are beloved that I, in 20 years, have discerned from working in emotional intelligence and talking to an array of people are the 2 most raging groups of pathological liars? Someone said, Lord have mercy, you just spoke hard truths and hard facts. I was just trying to keep it a buck. And does anybody want to guess? I feel like people who've taken my class might guess what the first group is because it's what we learned on day 2 of class. But those of you who don't know me or who have never worked with me or might be surprised, I'm going to do the most obvious group first. The second most popular group of people that somebody said men. Don't do that. I know a lot of really good men actually. But I get why you're saying men, because toxic masculinity is steeped in lies. So yes, on this channel in particular, we always make a point to separate people from systems. So the system of toxic masculinity is steeped in lying. So anybody, man or woman, because women subscribe to it as well, anybody who subscribes to toxic masculinity is a fucking liar. Yes, I agree, but that's not the answer. I'm going to do it number 2 and then number 1. The second most popular group of pathological liars that I've worked with, encountered, and studied, because, I'm working on a book, is content creators. Because content creation is a job where you have to literally create a persona to eat and pay your rent. Now, let's have some nuance. Content creators who are in on the joke are not pathological liars. They're actually some of the realest people I've ever met. Someone who says, this is my brand, I'm doing this for, somebody guessed it, I knew it, somebody guessed the top group, I'll get to it in a second. Somebody who says, I'm doing this as a job, but once I log off online, this shit is fake, I'm going back to my real life. I'm not talking about those content creators. Those people are the kind of content creators that I call friends. Content creators who are in on the joke, I call them my friends, I've dated a couple of them, they're good people because they're in on the joke. But content creators who are slaves to optics, who literally get a dopamine hit. Not serotonin, guys, dopamine. Let's write this down. Dopamine is temporary, serotonin is more long lasting, right? So when you are hitting like on something, you're giving someone a dopamine hit because it's not lasting. Be honest, guys. How many times have you had a day where you like, damn, I feel ugly, I don't feel likable, I don't feel like I'm popping, and you put on something cute and took a selfie because you know you're going to get a couple hundred likes, or maybe even a couple thousand or tens of thousand likes? Don't lie. I don't think there's a single person on here, myself included, who hasn't had a day like, am I still cute? And posted a selfie like, oh yeah, I'm still cute. That's a fleeting dopamine hit, right? So let's talk. Hey, Riley, I love you. Oh, I love Riley so much. But let's talk, because we're talking about liars. The reason why content creators who are not in on the joke, who are slaves to optics, are the number 2 most popular form of pathological liars that I've found in my work is because they start to get high off of their own supply. They don't say, hey, I know I've been looking homeless Monday through Friday and only look popping on the weekends at these events. They don't say that to themselves. They're like, yo, everybody's telling me I'm the most beautiful, perfect bitch who's ever lived. It must be true. And then they walk through the world as if what happens on live is really their real lives. And when they get a glimpse of reality, when they realize they're not as rich as they pretend to be, they're not as attractive as they pretend to be, they're not as positive, because toxic positivity is great for people who are fraudulent. They're not as positive as they pretend to be. When they get a small dose of reality, guess what happens? They become depressed. Because they have gotten so high off of their own supply that the truth feels ugly to them. There was a study done a couple of years ago about how certain types of women have now started getting plastic surgery, not to look like Jennifer Aniston or J-Lo or Beyonce back in the 90s and early 2000s. There are people who are literally getting plastic surgery to look like their filtered selves. There are people who are so in love with how they look with a filter that they get sad when they look in the mirror and see their real face. Perfect example. Right now, you guys see I have a filter that is changing the color of the room I'm in, right? The reason I'm doing that is because I'm an artistic bitch and I like things that look good. I'm wearing a vintage 80s Brazil t-shirt. And because I'm wearing a vintage t-shirt, I wanted vintage colors, right? I'm just a creative bitch. However, if you peep my face, this is still my real face. The 8 lashes I have left before I go to my lash lady, my brows that I didn't fill in, no makeup on my skin. I intentionally do my best to pick filters that make me look as much as me as possible, even when they're fixing a sin. Like when I don't have lashes, you guys know, when I don't have lashes, I'll put on a filter that only gives me lashes. I still want to look like me. It only gives me lashes. When I want beautiful colors, I'll look for a filter that only gives me beautiful colors. But I don't want to get in the habit of not falling in love with my real face. Because that's exactly, my skin is popping, thank you. I was exfoliating this morning. But no, the reason I do that, even with my hair, if I wear extensions, I wear nappy ass extensions that are the same gradient as my real hair. I don't want to slowly get into the habit of falling in love with my real self. And so even when I enhance, I make sure I'm not deviating from the source. Unfortunately, people who were born in the social media era, who don't have big sisters, aunties, and friends, who tell them stuff like that, fall in love with the optics. And they only get dopamine hits from the optics. And therefore, when they can't face their true selves, guess what's been incentivized? Pathological lying. So yes, a lot of my clients who are pathological liars, who come to me to help them work their way out of being in love with the fantasy and loving their true selves, work in this industry of content creation. The number 1 most popular group, because I was number 2, number 1 most popular group of people that I've worked with, again, for 20 years now, who are pathological liars, and someone who I think I've worked with in here guessed it, people pleasers. I'm gonna let that sit for a second. People pleasers are the number 1 group of pathological liars that I've worked with. There's always a time in my class, by the way, for those of you who are looking at the pinned comment at the bottom, if you want to register for my online Own Thy Shift Self-Mastery Workshop, it kicks off July 10th. We do it for 2 hours every Wednesday on Zoom from the comfort of your own home. We have people from London, people from Africa. There's somebody who, I always mention this, there's a brother who woke up at 2 a.m. in Sierra Leone just to take my class, right? People from all over the world. The reason we do it digitally is because, number 1, I want you to be able to talk to me in real time. Set your alarm. Number 2, I want you to be comfortable, right? Because we're about to have a really uncomfortable conversation. So at least be in your own bed with a good libation while we do shadow work. And the number 1 group that I've always encountered who are pathological liars are people who are people pleasers. We do a whole class called The Niceness Trap. So I'm not going to get too much into that because that's not free game. That's part of the course, right? So the thing about being a people pleaser, why are they the number 1 group of pathological liars? It's simple. I'm not even going to begrudge this. The reason why people pleasers are such rabid pathological liars is because it's impossible to be honest and please everyone all the time. That's it. It is impossible to make everybody happy at all times and tell the truth. You gotta pick one. I'm a perfect example of this. I'm a jovial bitch. I'm nurturing as hell and I'm safe. I don't make anybody unsafe. Even if I don't like you, if I don't fuck with you, you will never be unsafe. You might be uncomfortable because the devil's a lie, right? Tell the truth and shame the devil. You might be uncomfortable. In fact, if you hang around me long enough, it's impossible not to be uncomfortable, right? But you're never unsafe. I am not a people pleaser because I always put safety and integrity and compassion above pleasure. Your ego is what is pleased, right? Most of the healthy things that are going to happen are going to displease your ego. And so because I'm someone who's feeding the heart and not the ego, I cannot be a people pleaser. But then you'll meet somebody else and they'll be like, yo, I ain't never seen Susie mad. Everybody likes her. She's everybody's best friend. Susie's a fucking liar. Susie's a fucking liar. She lies a lot. And she lies real good. I promise you, Susie lies. A perfect example of how Susie, that's the name I'm going to give it right now, is a liar is, if Susie's talking to someone who has, let's say, assaulted you, she's going to talk to them as if she completely understands their point, even though they've literally dishonored you emotionally and physically. That is unsafe, guys. Is Susie pleasing your abuser in that moment? Absolutely. Susie's telling him, yeah, you know, Kendrick be talking crazy to people, and that's why you had to pop him in the mouth when he was just asking you a valid question. And yeah, you know, we all know how Kendrick is. I understand why you had to hit him. Susie's going to go to that person and say that it was okay that they assaulted you, or this is a more clever tactic, say, I can see both sides, even though one person was assaulted and one person wasn't. Unsafe. Then Susie's going to come to you and say, yo, I can't believe you got popped in the mouth, Kendrick. I mean, we know you spicy, but nobody deserves to be hit. And now both parties, the abuser and the abused, love Susie. She's pleased everyone, but kept nobody safe because she's a fucking liar. If you are a people pleaser, you are probably a pathological liar. I know very few people pleasers who are not. And so let's discuss. And for those of you who are coming in late, this entire live is about the pathology of lying and how a compulsive liar, because I love people taking notes, a compulsive liar or habitual liar, they're interchangeable, is someone who lies out of anxiety. We've all done it, right? It's called being defensive. You get caught doing something red-handed. You get caught moving dirty. You thought you were slick, you thought you were clever, and you got cocky and you got caught. And when you're asked a question where you have the opportunity to course correct and be brave, you instead tell another lie. Anxiety makes you tell another lie, right? That is compulsive habitual lying, if it's something that you do all the time. But pathological lying is bigger. Pathological lying is when lying is a lifestyle because it keeps up a persona. It either keeps a persona that you're richer, smarter, happier, or kinder than you really are. Because the gag is people pleasers are very unkind. People pleasers are some of the most cruel people I've ever met in my life. A bitch like me, if I don't like you, you're going to know face to face, like, yeah, I don't really fuck with you like that. And we might have a really tense conversation, but we're both walking away clear. And what do I always say to the folks in here who know my class? Clarity is always an improvement. It doesn't matter if your feelings are hurt. Anytime that you have gained clarity, you've improved your stature. You've improved your standing. Why? Because the more clear you are, the more empowered you are to make real decisions, steeped in reality, not in dysfunction. So if you find out that your partner's cheating on you, that's going to hurt your feelings, of course, right? You're going to be heartbroken, but you're also more clear about who you were really laying down with. You're going to be more clear about who you're building a life with. You're going to be more clear about what boundaries are being dishonored. And now you can make more empowered decisions. So clarity, even when it breaks your heart or bruises your ego, because y'all conflate the two a lot, even when clarity hurts your feelings, it's always an improvement. And so I'm not a people pleaser. Not everybody likes me, but you're clear and you're safe. People pleasers, though, will smile and smile and smile until they talk to their best friend or until they get in the car on the ride home. And then they will say things about you that are so disgusting and demeaning that if you actually heard a tape of them talking about you, it would crush your spirit. Do you know how I know this, guys? You want to know how I know this? Because as a habitual, compulsive truth teller who is constantly being lied on by people pleasers, every time someone who has heard a lie about me comes to me and asks for the truth, and I tell them the truth, it doesn't matter how kindly, because I always feel bad. I always empathize deeply with people who are having to come to me to find out for the first time that the nice person that told them this horrible villain origin story about me actually was full of shit. And when I say people are full of shit, it's never from a place of personal truth. I be having receipts. I remember timestamps. I can have corroborating witnesses. Like, I'm different. I don't tell maybe because I have a journalistic background or because I'm neurodivergent, so I have a brain that naturally works like a computer. I tell the truth in like a journalist. I tell the truth like my job, right? And so when I tell the truth, I'm not gonna say, oh, I don't think he likes you. I'm gonna say he told me on 4 different occasions that he could not stand you. Here's a text message that he sent me saying he could not stand you. Here's the audio he sent me saying he could not stand you. And here are 4 other people who can corroborate this if they choose to tell you the truth as well. And because we've had this conversation, I'm probably gonna hit him up and tell him that you called me so that everybody knows the truth. Like, I'm not a scary bitch, right? So if I have a froggy conversation with you, I'm prepared to have it with the person that we're talking about. Right? So just be very clear, guys, that if you are someone who's compulsively honest, be prepared and be wary when you are around people pleasers because you are going to innately piss them off. Now, I wrote a note here, and shout out to everybody who's coming in. The note that I wrote was very interesting because I was trying to tell myself what to acknowledge because I always say you can't talk big shit about other people unless you talk the big shit about yourself. So the first thing I'm going to do before I continue, because we're going to wrap up in about 20 minutes, is I want to acknowledge privilege in this conversation. I, Blue to Lusma, am having this conversation with you from a place of privilege. Let's unpack that real quick, right? Because a lot of times people love to listen to self-help and personal growth, things like these lives, and they see them from a place of superiority. I'm a truth teller, and I'm only going to relate to the liars because I've been lied to. No, you are also a liar too, right? So part of not being smug in your intelligence is admitting the privilege that you enter the room into. Now, there's 2 privileges that I have to admit. The first privilege that I want to admit in this conversation is I can say that I am an honest, securely attached, emotionally intelligent woman over the age of 40. Listen to that sentence. I am an compulsively honest, securely attached, emotionally intelligent woman over 40. Those are four lines of privilege. First of all, me being compulsively honest isn't something I earned. I'm neurodivergent. I'm what they call OSOD, right? So I'm a high-functioning autistic person, which means my brain literally works like a computer, right? Most people, if you have an IQ over 130, over 140, shout out to y'all, family, you are neurodivergent. The brain is not meant to work that quickly, right? So anybody who's gifted is neurodivergent. So as someone with an abnormally high IQ who's autistic, so not only is my IQ high, but my brain processes information like a computer, that is a privilege that makes me compulsively honest. I'm not compulsively honest because I'm a good person. I'm compulsively honest because my brain deviates towards honesty like a computer. That is a privilege. It's also considered a neurological dysfunction, but socially it's a privilege when people have me fucked up. When somebody lies to me, I don't have to put in any work to go through a catalog in my brain about all the ways that they're lying. It's actually scary how easy it is for me to pull out a catalog and be like, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true either. Why do you lie? That's a privilege, right? So the fact that my brain, that I had nothing to do with, was born neurologically predisposed to telling the truth, that is a privilege. The second thing is I'm securely attached. Secure attachment, and we do cover this in the class, so for those of you who are coming in, please look to register for the class. Secure attachment is something that happens from having great therapy. That is a privilege. Not everybody can afford and or find great practitioners. So the fact that I'm securely attached is a fucking privilege, right? I want to acknowledge that. And the fact that I'm someone who, you know what, it's so funny, am over 40 is also a privilege. Because someone who has reached a certain age is educated enough to, and emotional intelligent. Me being emotional intelligent, I say this all the time. I learned emotional intelligence from the Harvard School of Public Health. Who the fuck has money? Most people do not have the money to sit at Harvard for fucking 2 years learning about emotional intelligence. That's a huge privilege. So between my brain functionality, my age, my education, and the counseling that I was able to get, I have 4 pieces of privilege that most people do not have. And so when I'm talking about pathological liars and compulsive liars and telling the truth and X, Y, and Z, no part of me is stupid enough to think, oh, I'm a better person than you. No, because maybe this is very kumbaya of me, would like to believe most people, if they had my education, my support system, my wisdom that comes from my age, and a brain that just is unfairly predisposed to picking up really, really thick amounts of data, they might too be as righteous as I come off. There's a privilege that I have to acknowledge in this conversation. The reason why I'm calling out my own privileges, if I, someone who does this for a living and pays the entirety of my rent doing this for a living, am not going to give myself permission to be smug when I'm talking to people who are compulsively or pathologically lying, if I can find grace, a lot of y'all need to find some too. Because a lot of times when people talk about emotional intelligence or self-improvement, what ends up happening is the nearsighted ends up judging the blind. Neither of you can see, right? If you are nearsighted, you are only marginally more sighted than somebody who was blind. I'm just joking, by the way. I know people who are nearsighted, not blind. But I'm saying is, if you are someone who is compromised and you have humanized yourself, within reason, you also have to humanize others. Which is why when I'm around someone and I'm discerning, not through a place of trauma, but through a place of education, ooh, this person always lies when they're anxious. All right, I'm dealing with a compulsive liar. How do I keep myself safe and show grace within reason? Because the rule that I have is I will never set myself on fire to keep somebody else warm. So if I'm giving you grace, that grace cannot be to my own detriment. Fortunately, though, I'm operating from a surplus, right? So when someone like me, who's operating from a surplus, finally gets mad enough to be like, nigga, you are a fucking liar. Watch your voice. By the time you got me there, babe, most people would have cussed you out about 4 or 5 months ago. Right? When a compulsively honest person finally calls you out on your shit after giving you grace for a place of abundance, you need to recognize that the jig was probably up way before you thought it was. Now, why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because a lot of people watching this right now have been living duplicitous relationships where they're lying to people that they say that they love. I'm saying the word say that they love because my vision of love is not the flowery bullshit version that a lot of you create for yourself. I'm very aware of the difference between actual love and attachment. Some of you think you love people that you don't actually really love. You just are attached to them. That's a whole different life for a whole different day, right? Or just take the class. So if you say you love someone, but you've been habitually, I'm not going to call you pathological just yet, but you've been compulsively and habitually lying to them, I'm doing this live today to gently push you to reconsider. Because anything you have to lie to keep isn't really yours. The only exception I make for this is terminal illness or mental health issues. If you have an 85-year-old grandma who ain't shit and never gonna be shit, is probably gonna die soon from not being shit, you get to pick your battles like, look, I wanna enjoy my last couple of days with this bitch because I love her. Totally understandable, right? However, outside of something extreme like that, I'm going to beg you guys to write this down. Anything you have to lie to keep isn't really yours. Okay, you guys, this is funny. I just told you guys earlier to all thank Jason because him agreeing to do our meeting 30 minutes later is why we're able to do this live. Why did Jason just jump in here? Hi, Jason. They all sent you a thank you earlier. Jason, they all sent you a thank you earlier for moving our meeting to 1:30 so I could do this live. For those of you who are just coming in, today, somebody said, I just wrote it down. Good. Today's episode, and please watch this on the playback. This is a really important one, is number one, what kind of liar are you? Are you a casual liar? Which means you're a human being, and some days you lie because you want a day off from work, or you want to get your hair done, or X, Y, and Z. If you are someone who lies once in a while, that's called being human, right? Lying once in a while does not mean you are a liar. However, if you are someone who always lies when you're scared, you are a compulsive liar. Let me get that right. People who lie out of anxiety are compulsive liars. They're doing it from a place of fear. However, people who lie as a lifestyle. How many celebrities do we know are pathological liars? If you are someone who creates a whole persona, a whole lifestyle steeped on fallacy, to the point where even you can't tell the difference anymore, that is pathological lying. For those who are wondering, how do the two work together? Pathological lying is an umbrella. It is the big and worst case scenario, while compulsive lying is a small subsection of pathological lying. Now, people are asking, Blue, well, only bad people are compulsive or pathological liars, so I have nothing to worry about. Yeah, big cap. Big cap. Do you know what the number one cause of pathological and compulsive lying is? Trauma. This is why I advocate for therapy and counseling and coaching so much. This is why I'm teaching the workshop, link at the bottom, is because someone who has unhealed trauma, who has figured out a way to survive that is unhealthy, is prone and predisposed to a lot of malicious shit. Most people who are compulsive liars had childhoods when telling the truth was actually dangerous for their survival. Kids who've been abused, kids who've been neglected, kids who had parents who were strict but silenced them from telling the truth. They're taught that truth equals violence, truth equals abandonment, truth equals rejection, truth equals judgment. And so their fear of the truth is not illogical. It made all the fucking sense in the world. They had to lie to survive. I will never judge a child or someone under duress for surviving. Because I'm telling y'all right now, when the world ends, it's going to be Twinkies, cockroaches, and me. I plan to live to be over 100, okay? So as a surviving ass bitch who's not planning to go anywhere anytime fucking soon, I'm never going to judge you for surviving. Here's where you lose me though. Once you've survived, and you're no longer in danger, and you've kept that shit up, now you're the harmful one. The problem is when those kids who lied to survive because they had an abusive childhood or a strict regime, or they went to a school where there was corporal punishment. I'm West Indian, so I know a lot of kids who went to school where they got their asses beat, right? If you are someone who lied as a child to survive, but now, while you were lying to survive, your ego was being fed. Like, wait a minute, I'm really persuasive. Wait a minute, when I lie, everybody believes it. Wait a minute, this fake version of me that I've created is so much more likable than the real version of me. Some of y'all, fuck the phone. Some of y'all have a filter on your real life, okay? Forget a filter on the phone. By the way, you guys, it's my real face, because people are always like, is that a filter? No, guys, it's my real face. I'm just snatched. But for those of you who have a filter on your real life, I need you to understand that the broken little child inside of you who had to lie is not here anymore. So now you lied to survive. You survived, but your ego was getting fed. And if you don't have friends and family who are going to guide you and give you the tools to be healthy, now you've gone from a child who's trying to survive to a young adult who is lying to feed their ego. That's not about survival anymore. That's hubris. For those of you who watched my JLo episode, my special 2-hour JLo episode of Humanized that just came out last week, I was trying to show her grace, and I said, I don't think JLo's issue is about talent. I don't even think her issue is about her work ethic, because that bitch, whether you like her or not, she's been killing it in the game for almost 30 years. I think what caused the demise of JLo's public perception is she got drunk off of her own hubris. The things that turned people off weren't even fucking necessary. The things she did that turned people off were not even necessary. Hubris, unchecked ego, spawning from unresolved trauma is how you get pathological and compulsive liars. And so before y'all say, I'm a good person, it's fucking irrelevant, guys. Probably the most cold-blooded but consistent thing that I say to all my clients when they talk about somebody who's treated them bad, but he's a good person though. He's a good man, Savannah. That's irrelevant. That's a really low bar, guys. I'm not giving someone credit for not being Hitler. Ooh, you're not an evil villain. Doesn't mean that you get allowed to be a bad person. So, keeping this in mind, I wrote a list. And this is, again, you guys, I always tell you guys, please Google everything I say, because when you Google it and realize I didn't make this shit up, it just makes me more impressive, right? All right. The reasons for people becoming pathological liars. Reason number 1 is low self-esteem. I just covered it. Because that little kid who had to lie to survive, who then lied because it made them feel good about themselves and fed their ego, who's now lying because they have to maintain a fake, fraudulent-ass lifestyle, that's all low self-esteem. It's all low self-esteem. I recently had a disagreement with somebody. I only have like one a year. I literally only let myself cuss people out once a year because I'm too good at it and I don't want to create that habit because the old Blue was a savage. But I had a disagreement with somebody recently, and at one point, they did the thing that most liars do. Liars love to call truth tellers liars. It's called deflection, right? So if you're telling the truth and somebody else is lying, it becomes Spider-Man. If I call you a liar, that means I'm the truth teller. We did a whole class about this the last time we did a free game about people who like to switch with you. It's called Darvo. Look up the Darvo live that we did recently, right? And during this argument, I got tired of showing grace because I always show grace in arguments. Even when I'm mad, I'm always showing grace. If I've ever cussed you out, say thank you. Because whatever I cussed you out at, I was capable of way much more. I was capable of much more, I promise you. That's my family, right? But at one point in this disagreement, I said, the reason I am not a liar is because I'm not fucking scared of you. And he was stunned, like, excuse me? I said, I'm not scared enough of you to lie. Everybody lies from a place of fear. All lies are steeped in fear. So people who walk around with low self-esteem, they are crippled by fear. This is the ultimate incentive to be a pathological liar. So the number one reason that a lot of people become liars isn't just unresolved trauma, it's the low self-esteem that comes from unresolved trauma, right? So if you are someone who does not like yourself, just be clear, your proclivity to being a fucking liar is higher than most. The reason why I don't lie is not because I'm a great person. I am a good person, but that's not the reason I don't lie, though. I'm not self-aggrandizing enough to think I'm some special unicorn who just doesn't lie because I'm just an amazing-ass bitch. I don't lie because I've attacked, healed from, and directly dealt with all the fear and low self-esteem from my childhood. I don't hate myself enough to lie. I'm not scared enough to lie. I'm not insecure enough to lie. Those are things that everybody with help can work towards. You don't have to be a special unicorn to be a truth teller. Just address the fear and low self-esteem that made you lie in the first place. The second reason why people are pathological liars is trauma. We talked about that. Third reason is mental health disorders. Let's get into it. And for me, I have it down as, because I'm always trying to show compassion, mental health disorders / genetics. Now, when I say people are pathological liars from genetics, I do not mean Clay from Love is Blind, who kept telling that girl that he was scared he was going to cheat because his daddy was a cheater. I do not mean that. When I say genetics, I mean a lot of people have anxiety disorders in their families. Every single person in my family has some form of a mental health issue. We all have anxiety disorders. My grandma dropped dead out of nowhere 50 years ago. My mother had to raise her siblings as a 16-year-old girl. And the trauma that came from her having to raise babies while still being a baby created an anxiety in her and her siblings that they then passed down genetically to all their children. So because of unresolved trauma, back in like 1957, my entire bloodline has now inherited unresolved trauma around anxiety. I was born with an anxiety disorder. Me learning to confront that wasn't something that happened with time. Time alone doesn't solve shit. Time plus work heals all wounds. I hear people say time heals all wounds. Time didn't heal shit. It just made you forget. You're still unhealed. You're just unhealed and old. Time doesn't heal shit. Time plus work heals wounds. I know plenty of old bitches who are not healed from anything. Right? I know plenty of peers in my age group who are still mad about shit that happened in 97. So the reason why I say to be mindful about genetics is if you are someone who is genetically predisposed to anxiety, or someone who has an actual diagnosis like NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, which is a real thing, guys. I know you guys like to call everybody who makes you mad a narcissist. That's not how that works, but we're going to do a whole other life about that, right? But if you're somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial disorders, there's a whole list of disorders that make people so steeped and crippled by fear and anxiety that lying just becomes a natural tactic for them to survive the world because they don't have it in them, chemically speaking, biologically speaking, to believe that the world is safe. But the gag is when you're determined to believe the world is unsafe, you become unsafe too. I wrote this recently. I think it was like on one of my little Twitter events. A lot of times people are scared of something. The boogeyman they're scared of is themselves. People who lie are convinced that everybody else is lying. People who don't want to be abandoned are always the first to leave. People who don't want to be judged are some of the most judgmental people on the face of the fucking earth. A lot of people are hypocrites from a place of trauma. The very thing you're scared of being done to you, you do it to everybody else so you can get to it first. And you're doing that because you believe that it is inevitable. People who believe that pain is inevitable create pain. So, I have to wrap this up because I do have my meeting with Jason. I want you guys to understand that insecurity is why you lie. People who like themselves have the tools to navigate uncomfortable conversations and situations and believe in their ability to bounce back from disappointment, literally don't have a fucking reason to lie to you. So if somebody ever tells you Blue Toulouse lied, look them in the face and be like, I don't think that bitch is scared enough of you to lie. I don't lie because I'm not scared of none of y'all. I'm just not. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that to be the big bad wolf. I'm saying that because I want that for you too. I want you to get to a place where even if someone has the ability to break your heart, you trust yourself to bounce back, and therefore you're not scared of them. Someone said, are we saving this? Yes, I'm saving this. All lying stems from fear. People who are not scared are probably not going to fucking lie to you. And people who do lie to you are frightened out of their fucking minds. And that's why when my friends are like, Blue, that person who you stopped being cool with has been talking shit about you for weeks. Why have you not told everybody the truth? I was there. I know what really happened. Why are you letting him lie? Pity. I'm letting him lie because he has to lie, and I don't. It's called pity. Not sympathy, it's pity. Because at a certain point, when you lie on me and you've pissed me off and I'm still not chin-checking you, I'm not sympathizing. I just feel bad for you. It's pity. So for all the friends who are like, Blue, why don't you chin-check bitches more? Because I don't have to. I'm not scared. And here's the thing. I always say this. I love being a broken record. A consistency of character is the ultimate response. When someone lies and says I'm a liar, I'm a fraud, and yet 40% of the people who take my emotional intelligence class are literally taking it over and begging their friends and family to take it with them because it's helped them so much. The thousands of people that I've helped, the consistency of that speaks for itself that I'm not a fraud. I couldn't do this work for 20 years, 21 in August. I might throw a party. I couldn't do this work for 21 years being a fraud. Not with social media. I couldn't have a big ass mouth. A bitch like me with a big mouth, do you know how many people are waiting for me to not be who I am? How many people jerk off hoping that one day Blue Chalusma could be a fraud so that I don't have to do the work? Because here's the thing, guys. If you are someone who is honest, you trigger people who are telling the truth because your mere existence is a threat to everything that they think. People lie because they've convinced themselves that everybody else is lying. So if you believe that I've gotten this far, am this successful, this happy, skin this popping with no filter, if you believe that I'm thriving this much telling the truth, then suddenly you telling yourself that you have to lie to survive doesn't hold up anymore, does it? My mere existence, my success is a threat to the lie that is holding you together. It's like when somebody has a thread on a sweater and they pull it and they keep pulling it and they keep pulling it and they keep pulling it and then the whole sweater disintegrates. When you are someone who is steeped in integrity, who's done the shadow work, who has a character that speaks for itself, every room you walk into, prepare to scare the shit out of all the liars who can smell you in the air. Because nothing is more dangerous to the fake than the truth, right? And don't take that shit personal. It's just science. All right, guys, I gotta go. I adore you guys. Somebody said, Blue, you don't ever miss. Y'all are funny. I'm officially 1 minute late for my meeting with Jason. I hope it doesn't cuss me out. And for those of you who are late to this, I will be saving this live. Make sure that you do subscribe to my YouTube channel at Bluecentric over at YouTube because these videos only stay on Instagram momentarily, but they stay forever on YouTube. I adore you guys. And please remember, as always, we're all just human beings doing human shit. So please be gentle with yourselves while still holding yourselves accountable. All right, I gotta go. Love y'all. Bye.